All right, here we go. To start with, we're talking about business applications, so there's a few words that you have to understand. Costs. They're just what you'd expect. They're costs that the business has to incur. Okay, the official is, I guess I would just call it money out. This is like the business has to pay for its raw materials, it has to pay for its employees, it has to pay for the light bill, it has to pay for somebody to sweep up the floor after work, and so basically there's a lot of costs to doing business. Okay, so that's money out. I'm obviously oversimplifying here, but that's okay. On income, they call it revenue. That's money in. So if you are a business, you like revenue. Revenue is when people have bought your stuff and they give you money. Okay, now you've got money so that you can spend on costs. And hopefully, if there's any money left over, you have profit. And that is basically, yeah, so what would we do? What minus what? That's right, revenue minus cost. So if revenue minus cost is exactly equal, then you would have what you have is called the break even point. It's where revenue equals cost. Here's the idea there. Let's say that you bring in $1 million into your company because you sold a whole bunch of widgets, okay? And then the costs for making the widgets were $1 million. So then you have exactly a break even. How much profit do you have? None. So even though you had $1 million in revenue, you could have no profit. Now, is that okay for the people that work there? Sure, because they are going to get paid anyway. Their money was part of the costs. You know what I mean? They made money anyway. Who's not happy if it doesn't have profit? The owner of the business. Because if you're the owner of the business and there's no profit, then that means that you didn't make any money as the owner. Now, sometimes the owners are also employees they get a salary, and so then they're not as worried about it either. Generally, businesses want to make money, though. Nothing wrong with making profit. Okay, a lot of times people somehow think that it's bad for companies to make profits, but I can understand when people are frustrated, like with the oil companies making big profits when gas prices are high. You know, like ExxonMobil, it's one of the big oil companies, you know, makes like $1 bazillion, and then we all pay more for gas. You guys that don't drive it, I can understand it. I can't relate to it that much, but when your parents have to go to fill up the car and it costs like $85 to fill up the car once, and it only lasts like a week, it's a little painful. And then to see these companies come out with these huge profits. Well, so why is profit in any way good? What does it help when a company has profit? Yes. That's a good point. Sometimes companies will do good things with the profits, like give the employees bonuses. Sometimes, what other good things do they do with profit? Sometimes they just stick it in the bank, and then it doesn't really do much. But yes, yep, they can use it to make the company bigger and better. Maybe the employees get a new gym or something, or besides expanding on the infrastructure, they could also expand in other markets. Like, we're going to start selling widgets to China. And so then maybe the employees can make even more money down the road, and the boss too. Any other ideas? They can donate it to charity. Good point. Sometimes when they have big profits, they will buy things like, maybe they'll buy iPads for a school in Minneapolis that needs to have some improvement in their scores or whatever, and try to make things get better. Yes? That's true. Target has been a very generous donor for Minnetonka. There's other companies that have been generous in Minnetonka too, but Target's definitely one of the bigger ones. So when they have profits, one other thing they do sometimes is something called R&D. Do you have any idea what that means? It stands for research and development. That would be, for instance, let's say that you are Apple Corporation and you have just made the iPad, which has become a big success. And you're thinking about, well, what could we do next? we could research something and try to make a really good blank. What do you think could be a next product for Apple? Just off the top of your head. TVs. Okay, so Apple TV. So instead of having your computer and your TV separate, what if it's just one great big thing? That is one thing that people have been talking about with it. They have really nice monitors on their TV. Like the screens are getting bigger and bigger. They're like 27-inch is kind of a, it's not that expensive for an Apple 27-inch, which is still much smaller than your TV on your wall. But all right, so Apples could get into TVs. Any other ideas? Yes? All right. Oh, like make a gaming system, kind of like an Xbox, except to be the Apple Fun Box or whatever it is, the iBox or the iGame or who knows what, i something. Did you know that Apple didn't own the name iPhone when they actually, on the day they released it, they still didn't own the name? You know who did? Motorola. They owned the name iPhone, and yet Apple took it and just used it. And nope, they were in negotiations to buy it from them, and they were really close to ending their negotiation. They just decided to go for it, even though they didn't officially own the name yet. That's I know that I'm close to right in all my facts there, but it could have been maybe they did it the day before it launched. But I'm pretty sure that even the day it launched, they hadn't actually closed the deal yet. So it's kind of cool. They didn't own the name iPhone. So if they decided to go into iToasters, who knows who owns the name iToaster, but they'll have to buy it from them. Because you can't just like decide, I want to name my product the blank if there's already one out there. So that's one of the reasons that car names kind of get interesting after a while, because all of them are already taken that are, well, I shouldn't say that. Many good names are already taken. All right. So research and development is a good thing, and especially when it comes to like drugs, a lot of the drug companies justify why they have to make big profits because they're going to use that money to research new drugs. Like for instance, let's say some company made, $50 billion over 10 years, and they used it all to research how to cure cancer. Okay? And not only if they end up doing it, they'll make even more money, but obviously they'll save a lot of lives if they could stop cancer. I think I was just researching this the other day. Wasn't researching. I heard about a researcher on the radio who was describing what they found out about cancer is that it's actually totally different things, like cancer of the brain and cancer of like lung cancer are completely different things. They kind of thought for a while that cancer was cancer, and if you cured one kind of cancer, you'd pretty much have cured them all. But they figured out that they are so different than each other that if they ever do figure out the cure for whatever cancer, it's probably just going to be for that kind of cancer. So if they ever figure out the cure for breast cancer or brain cancer or whatever kind of cancer, that won't be the end because there's so many other kinds of cancer, and they're all so different. They're just learning more and more about how different they are. One other R&D topic I wanted to mention because it just came up in yesterday's news was they now have a blood test that they're going to be starting to sell in Great Britain, and I'm sure it'll come to America soon, that will tell you through something in your blood called telomeres. If it can tell based on these telomeres in your blood how long you are going to live. Isn't that crazy? Now, of course, if you get like trampled by elephants as you walk out of the school, you won't live as long as what they expected. But you get what I'm saying? It's how long you were expected to live based on your blood, and that's kind of they've done a lot of studies, and they now think that it's pretty dialed in, not to the day or anything, but they can tell you, looks like you've got 15 years left based on our results. You're right. This won't fix it if you went to Africa and got malaria and died of malaria or something. But it's like it's supposed to factor in some things, but not everything. So all it can do is give you a baseline. And again, if you get hit by a bus or something bad happens to you, that'll change everything. But that's something that research and development can do. Yes? Okay, let's move on. So a typical problem today, we'll have something like this. The costs. Let's say that we make widgets. If we make widgets at our company and we spend $100,000 in what are called fixed costs. That means even if we make 0 widgets, we have to spend $100,000. You get what I'm saying? They're fixed. They don't depend on how many widgets I make. Okay, because even if I don't make any widgets, I still have to have the building, which I have to pay taxes on, and then I have to heat it. You can't like let it go totally cold in the wintertime, right? Even if you weren't working there, you'd have to keep it at a certain temperature. And you have to have a certain amount of expense for like security of this building. You can't just leave it vacant. If you're going to protect your building, you have to have like people there to make sure nobody breaks in or whatever. So anyway, you got your expenses that are fixed. And then you got something that's not fixed, and you add those expenses. So what are the expenses that are not fixed called? Do you have any idea? Variable, I could agree with that. Okay, and those variable costs, for instance, let's say that we are selling these widgets and they cost us $8 every time we make one. And I should put 8, and then every time I make one, X. Very good. So our costs could be like that: $100,000 to open up the factory plus $8 for every widget we actually make. All right. Then our revenue is another equation, and our revenue is how much we bring in. All right. Now, what if our revenue is like these widgets that we sell? They cost $20. So how do I put that 20 into this equation? 20x. That's right, $20 for every widget we sell. All right. Now, can it be more complicated than that? Definitely. You know, a lot of companies have multiple products and they make different amounts on each product. You know, like on the we showed you the other day that on a computer, maybe Apple makes more than on an iPad, or you know, they have to add in all these different amounts of revenue for all these different products. We're keeping it really simple. We have one little product we call a widget. And if you're actually going to solve this, you'd probably say R, and you wouldn't say colon, you'd say equals. And then C equals. And what if I asked you for the break-even point? What am I finding then? R equals C. So if I was going to make this into an equation, if R equals C, wherever I see R, I can put that. Well, R equals C equals that. That means that I could put a 20x right there. Do you get what I'm saying? And then I can solve that equation. And once I solve that equation for x, I get x equals blah, blah, blah. Then I'm done. I figured out what my number of widgets is that I need to sell. All right, so let's do this one. So I subtract 8 from both sides. So I subtract 8 from both sides. I have 12x equals 100,000. Somebody with a calculator, take 100,000 divided by 12. 8333. That means if we sell 8,333 widgets, then that's not dollars, sorry, that's widgets. 8,333 widgets, then we break even, which means that we've got enough to pay everybody. You can pay for all of our, you know, like materials and stuff, but we didn't make any profit, which means that we may not have any money to do any research to make better widgets next year, or we may not have any money to give back to the community, or maybe we don't have any money so that the boss can buy a giant boat to sit in front of his house on Lake Minnetonka. However, whatever he chooses to do with his profit. Okay, but profit is generally what businesses want to have so that they can get to be better and better and hopefully stay in business in the future. All right, so if we have a problem, I think we've only got 5 problems like that that you're going to have to do. And one other topic is we have a little review on something we haven't done in a while on the worksheet also. So I will get those for you. And it is almost time for lunch, but not quite.